This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. Surrogate mothers that were knocked up are now banged up. Dead bodies hacked, handcuffed and beheaded are found on wasteland. And old ladies being targeted in road traffic accidents. But firstly, it is our headline story, and this story went across the world like wildfire. Here is our headline here at the Khmer Times. Cambodia sentences 13 Filipino surrogate mothers to 4 years in prison. That story was then followed very closely by the good people at CNN, and then the BBC was to pick it up. It was on their BBC World Service Radio, then it migrated to the BBC News website, and those two alone have nearly 1 billion viewers. So this story was huge. The headline said it all, as a Cambodian court has sentenced 13 pregnant Filipino women to 4 years in jail for acting as surrogate mothers. Now, you may recall I covered this story a few weeks back, saying that the ladies in question had been impregnated in Thailand. They had then transferred to Cambodia, as it was perceived that Cambodian law was lax on such criminal offences. Well, that was where everyone involved was wrong. In fact, it is safe to say they were very wrong indeed, as the Cambodian courts have issued prison terms that make this country's position extremely clear. Human trafficking of babies is not acceptable and it will not be tolerated. The court sentenced each of the 13 Filipino women to 4 years in jail, but 2 years of that sentence will be suspended. Now, this is a very touchy subject, seeing pregnant women being sent to jail, and it is all too easy to get emotional on such a matter, but one must not lose sight of the crime itself, as what each and every one of these women was doing was selling babies for cash. And one must also remember that these babies were going to literally disappear off the radar. Once the child was sold, there is absolutely no saying where it would have gone. Imagine that. Imagine you sell your own son or daughter on the black market to someone you have never met, and you have absolutely no idea what will happen to that child. That is truly frightening. And as both CNN and BBC reported, the reason these surrogate mothers came to Cambodia is due to the fact that India and Thailand are cracking down very harshly on this illegal activity, and the baby dealers thought that there was a place to set up their vile and illicit trade. But as the Cambodian courts have clearly stated, with these prison sentences, try human trafficking babies in Cambodia, and we will lock you up, no matter who you are. On this week's Crime Desk, bodies discovered in canal and beheaded in a suitcase. Old ladies deliberately knocked off their bikes in gold grabs. And guns and knives flash in Sihanoukville as the body count rises. Now, this next story is just out and out chilling, as what it has is a huge amount of the unknown. And when you're dealing with 2 dead bodies being dumped on wasteland, one's mind could be filled with thoughts of, is there a serial killer on the loose? The police this week announced they have launched a very urgent investigation after 2 bodies were found in just 10 minutes. Now, finding dead bodies littering the area is bad enough, but the level of violence that these crimes displayed make it extremely unnerving, as one body was found handcuffed and dumped in a canal. The other was found stuffed in a suitcase, but as the police were soon to discover when they opened the bloody suitcase, the victim inside had had its head hacked off. The first investigation was launched after the body of a man suspected of being a foreigner was found floating in a canal, his hands handcuffed behind his back. And only minutes later, The police received yet another call, and in the second case, residents found a body that had been set alight and then had its head removed. As a final indignity, the body was then stuffed into a suitcase and dumped by a canal. Now you have to remember that removing someone's head is really difficult. It's all that muscle and sinew, don't you know? That's why Henry VIII, the English king who beheaded two of his wives, had the axeman brought in from France. It is no easy task, because separating someone from the head is skilled work. So the second case of the body in the suitcase shows a level of violence that is rarely paralleled. The police say at this current moment they are still investigating and are following up multiple leads. Now, here is a good one as it borders towards the absurd. A gentleman was driving home one warm and dark night. It was, in fact, 2 o'clock in the morning. He was being cautious with his driving as he knew the roads in that area can be a little dangerous. But his caution was not enough, as he was hit from behind by a careless car driver. The car driver knew full well he had hit the bike as he saw the motorcyclist bleeding and seriously injured on the tarmac. Now, if you are a regular viewer, you will know where this story is going, don't you? Yep, that's right. The car driver looked at the accident he had caused and he looked at the injured man, and then he did the traditional by fleeing the scene and leaving a man seriously wounded in the road. But it was to get even worse for this particular victim of hit and run, because as he lay there, some bystanders, on hearing the accident, did come to his aid. They even called an ambulance. But one of those bystanders, seeing the man on the floor bleeding, thought it would be the perfect opportunity to steal the man's motorbike. So he strolled over, picked up the bike, straightened the front wheel, and drove off with it. Like being hit by 4 tons of car is not bad enough for one night. Crikey. But we have another crikey already loaded up and good to go, as this headline also appeared this week, and it is "Accident Muggers Target Elderly Women in Phnom Penh." Now, let me explain. It seems a gang in the capital is deliberately causing old ladies to crash their motorbikes so they can then snatch their gold jewellery, the jewellery that they are wearing. So if you're not in a legitimate accident where you may be robbed by a bystander who steals your bike, then an accident can be supplied for you, one that will see your jewellery disappearing over the horizon. The police are taking these deliberate accidents extremely seriously, and my guess is it won't be long before arrests will be forthcoming. Now, let us head off to the seaside for some murder and mayhem, and we arrive at Sihanoukville, where this week there were 2 violent incidents. In the first case, a Chinese national was fatally stabbed in a dispute at a casino. Reports say a deadly fight at a Long Bay casino resulted in the death of the Chinese national, following a violent confrontation over a bag filled with money. The fight turned fatal when one man stabbed the other with a large kitchen knife. The man died on his way to hospital. And dear old Long Bay Casino is no stranger to this kind of incident, as in the past other murders have been committed at Long Bay but have gone unsolved. On this occasion, though, the assailant is behind bars and will be charged. In our second case of violence in Sihanoukville this week, police have arrested 3 Chinese nationals in connection with attempted murder and illegal possession of weapons, following a shooting that left one Chinese man very seriously injured. The criminal police department apprehended 3 suspects following a shooting that occurred at 3 a.m. in the height of the seaside resort. According to police reports, 2 Chinese men allegedly used a handgun to shoot another Chinese national, causing very severe injuries. The suspects then fled the scene, but they were later captured and now face charges of attempted murder. This is a rather worrying trend, as Sihanoukville has been blighted by violent crime in the past, and it is very much hoped that this is not a return to the bad old days. This week we finish on a lighter note, as all that blood, gore and violence can get a little too much. And what we find on the lighter side of the news this week is this headline: man arrested after bomb threat to family. Now, I am sure we have all been there. You have had a disagreement with your family and tensions ignite into blazing rows as family members seem to separate and take sides. I know so often one member of the family can feel very aggrieved indeed. So, what is the normal practice in such an event? Well, it is, of course, to issue bomb threats to your entire family. And seeing as you're issuing threats to blow up your family, why not throw your wife in as well? So the threat is now, I'm not only going to blow you lot up, my dear family, but also my wife. But here is the problem. How do you let your relatives know of your intentions when you are no longer speaking? One could send a letter, but it really does not have the punch that you are trying to deliver. So what you need to do, of course, is turn to social media. And where else but the fantastical land where idiocy seems to reign supreme? Yep. It's dear old Facebook, the land of trolls and very dubious face creams. Yes, indeed, a man has now been arrested after he took to social media with a bomb in his hands and threatened to kill not only his family, but also his wife. The bomb he showed in the video was made in the 1970s, so his threat had a very retro throwback look to it. Classy. And although I'm making light of this crime, the police of Kampong Speu took a very different approach and have now arrested the man for domestic violence and threats to kill. He has not at current been named, but he now awaits a trial date and he has an awful lot of explaining to do. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. And before we head into the weather, let's have a look at my week. I like to do this because fundamentally the weather is boring. And here we have my Christmas tree. Because it's nearly Christmas, it's just around the corner. There's my tree. I put it up every year. I live alone, but I still decorate the house. I live alone apart from Wilbert the hamster, of course. And dear old Wilbs, look at his luxury apartment that he lives in. He's got his stocking out waiting for Santa Claus. Nice one, Wilbs. But stand aside, it's time for the weather. And what we've seen is cloud and greyness across the board with the potential for very light rain. But have a look at that humidity. It's up at 80%, and even worse, the temperature high this week is going to be 32 degrees. This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly roundup.